Hello, this is Survival-gyver, and today's book of the week is Composting for a New Generation by Balz. Photography done by Stockton. It's the latest techniques for bin and beyond. So, why would anybody interested in composting? Well, there's a lot of benefits to composting, and I actually have a compost pile here in the backyard. Small one, like a 4x4 by 4, in which I just put mostly sticks on the bottom, leaves, grass, plant clippings, old plants including roots, some soil, pine needles, pine cones, things of that nature. And I just started doing coffee grinds in it. And I had to add some worms because the base below it is clay. So nothing is really living in the clay layer where I live here. So I had to add some worms, and I went from a pile that was full to the top to half full in a couple of weeks. And I'm just starting to get really nice dark soil amendment in there. So that's awesome. So this book talks about the benefits of composting. And different kinds, like a hot pile, cold pile, the rotating drum style, vermicomposting, trench type, bokashi, all sorts of versions, including some really large container type, makes them out of pallets, something of that nature, and much smaller ones like what I have. And they even have small, really small composting setups where it's pretty much just a bucket. So, let's see. So this book normally goes for about, when I bought this was $23, or about 15 pounds, or 30 bucks Canadian. That's crazy. But I will leave a link in the description to Books A Million, where you can find it there, and Amazon. Last I looked at Amazon, they didn't have it in stock. But Books A Million did. So if you're interested in something similar or this book directly, that's where you can purchase one. Also, I do recommend your local library. They should be able to have it or be able to get it for you. So you have options. All right. So this actually was a good read. I read this in a couple of days, and I'm a slow reader. This was done in 2018. Quarto Publishing Group USA. This is first published. I think this is second print, but doesn't matter on that end. So this is all about composting. So clearly, as the title says, and in the really nice index here, it's really easy to read because it's large print for the most part. The expected and unexpected benefits of composting, science of composting, composting basics, maintaining your compost bin, integrated composting, vermicomposting. I don't know how to say that properly, so please bear with me. Harvesting and using your finished compost, acknowledgments, bibliography and reference list, appendix, a couple different kinds of appendixes, and about the author. So it's almost 200 pages, almost. So there's an introduction about who Michelle is, why you compost. Well, to make soil amendments, so your plants will grow better. And when you have piss poor soil like we have here, anything helps. So this is what we've been doing. It's also a lot easier to compost because it's still in the backyard than to bring everything out to the curb to be disposed of by the town. Because I just take care of it myself, unless it's some really large tree and I can't. But things like leaves and lawn clippings, I can bring that right to the back instead of just leaving it at the curb and making a mess. So it talks about a quick primer, improving your soil, an idea of how your soil works. In my case, you have grass, you have a little bit of soil, and then the rest is clay. It's a way of saving money. You can teach kids how to do this. Suppressing plant disease, preventing erosion, which we do have some erosion when it rains heavily here. Stabilizing pH. So this is a really in-depth book on composting. So see how this one here is with the open bins. This is a smaller scale 4 corral composting area, serves as community garden across an elementary school. I have one of these, is what I do everything with. And I don't even till it as often as I should, and it still does really well. It did it in the first couple of months, but as the pile got higher, the temperature on the inside got hotter, and then it really decomposed really quickly. So, also with the pile getting hotter, it kills off weed seeds. Not marijuana weed, but like pokeweed and dandelion, if dandelion's a threat by you, or clover. So it'll kill all those extra weeds you don't want around. And it'll also kill a lot of things like aphids and Japanese beetles if it gets hot enough. So you talk about microorganisms, earthworms, springtails, sow bugs, snails and slugs, plasmodial slime mold. I mean, some of it sounds horrible, but it's really not. They talk about the 3 phases of aerobic composting, carbon nitrogen ratio of common compostables. So you want a kind of like a 50-50 mix, or at least by me it's a 50-50 mix, where you ever might be a different amount. But you're looking for browns and greens. Browns are typically leaves, straw, wood chips, sawdust, natural sawdust, not pressure treated wood. So natural stuff, maybe regular cedar, regular pine, but nothing pressure treated, nothing that's chemically treated, because that could be a problem. Mixed paper, especially newspaper, and shredded paper. Most inks nowadays are biodegradable. It may take a little bit longer, but you can still use them. Newspaper and corrugated cardboard and pine needles. And then high in nitrogen, in this case, vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, grass clippings, cow and horse manure, which I don't have either of these nearby, and chicken manure. I don't have those either at the moment, and can't because we don't have that kind of room. But so they show you what you have for setting that up, how much oxygen and water you need, which is actually really easy, because if you really want to bring it down to a science, you can figure it out over a course of a year, what works, what doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, you could add more brown and more green until something happens. Or you can add more, like coffee grounds, if you need more nitrogen in there to get more pill bugs and worms in there. So in this chapter here, we have what you can compost, like yard trimmings, kitchen scraps, coffee grounds, which that doesn't really look like coffee grounds to me. That kind of looks like rabbit poop, but what do I know? So you talk about nitrogen content of domestic animal manures, other stuff you can compost, like small pieces of brush and shrubs. By the way, if you really want to get fancy with it, if you're tilling in your garden from the year before, so you have old tomato plants or pepper plants, something of that nature, get a set of cutters or clippers and cut them into really small pieces, less than an inch if you can. I know that's time consuming, but the smaller the pieces, the faster they'll compost, because it's more surface area to get the microbes in there. So little tip on that. So there's all sorts of other things you could do, coffee grounds and filters. I use a reusable filter, not a reusable mesh filter, not a paper filter. Save the environment kind of thing. Bread, crackers, pasta. I typically don't put food other than coffee grounds in there, because I'm trying to keep rodents and trash pandas or raccoons, whatever you call them in your neighborhood, from getting into the backyard. I'm not trying to bring any here, because that would be a problem. Stuff you shouldn't, like meat and poultry, dairy, fish, bones. Bones is an interesting one, because bones last a long time. They will not decompose in your backyard compost pile without a serious amount of time or heat. My neighbor, before they moved in, they just bought the house. The house was empty for over a year. Had a dead bird in the backyard. It fell out of a tree I think. I just found it on the ground. And before the new owners got there, I picked it up with a pooper scooper for my dogs and dropped it in the pile. And within about 2 weeks, it was gone. You could see a couple of the bones left, but there's nothing left of that bird. So that tells me it's getting pretty hot in there. No grease, oil, or fats. No charcoal, ash, or briquettes, which is interesting because some real charcoal and real ash from burnt wood shouldn't be a problem. But they tell you to keep it out anyway. Actually says here, charcoal from pure wood poses no danger. Once it's cooled, will compost fine. But not the briquettes otherwise because of a chemical binder. No diseased plants, so if I have any diseased plants like I did last year, so my tomato plants were diseased, those did not make it into the compost pile. Technically, if you get the pile hot enough, it shouldn't be a problem, but you could just be causing more problems later on, depending on if you use it again in some locations with the same kind of plants. Because there's no, unless you get a thermometer to check the temperature on a regular basis, like check it daily or a couple of times a day, you will never know if you're destroying the disease that killed the plant in there. So weed seeds, they tell you not to put them in there because they spread themselves out in the finished product. But again, if you get it hot enough, that shouldn't be a problem. So plants harmful to humans, and dog and cat manure. So this is interesting because there are plenty of places online that recommend putting in dog manure in your pile. Because it says here dog and cat poop can contain harmful pathogens that your pile may not be hot enough to kill. It also, needless to say, stinky. You could also want to avoid adding manure from other meat-eating pets such as ferrets, snakes, and even random kikajow. I don't know what that one is. So again, if the pile gets hot enough, you can do that. But I'm not doing that. You know, even with 5 dogs, I'm not putting crap in the compost pile just because I don't want to take the chance. But under certain conditions, you can. They talk about if you can compost black walnut leaves. More about keeping the material small. Microinvertebrate friends will eat any organic thing you throw in the compost bin. But if you want them to eat faster, make the pieces smaller. Chopping up the material increases the surface area for the bacteria and fungi. Strange, I said that just a few minutes ago, and that is true. I've noticed that in my own testing. When I put if I got lazy and just took off a large section of a plant, like an entire stem or section, it will take forever, in my opinion. It takes months and months and months before you start to even notice it break down. But when you cut it into really small pieces, it disappears pretty quickly. They talk about you may need a wheelbarrow, a pitchfork, a spading fork. I use just a generic pitchfork. Spade, gloves, leaf rake, pruners, whatever you need. We talk about chipper shredder, compost thermometer. I don't have one of these. I'm actually looking to get one soon. I said my pile is almost 4 feet thick, so at the moment it'll be down to 2 feet probably in the next week or so. So I have to get one that's at least 2 feet long, so I can see what the temperature is. They want to register your pile at about 140 degrees. A decent hot pile is between 160 and 170 degrees. So we'll see what happens. They talk about locations, how you can make a compost pile in just about anything. It could just be a bag. It could be a plastic box. It could be inside pallets. It could be something like this, which I was thinking about doing if I redo the section where it is, which is against my fence line. That might be an idea, to add piping so I can get some more airflow. This would be decomposition. The other option is I could put more sticks. I've been putting sticks in there as is. Sticks create voids that air can get trapped in, or it can get into the pile easier. So you have a couple of options. My only concern about using PVC pipe like they suggest, with holes in it, eventually it's going to get clogged. and then you have to clean it out and then put it back in, and yeah, I'll just stick with sticks, I think. They talk about adding water, which you should have a moist pile, but not a soaking wet pile. You can make them out of like straw and hay. They talk about things that troubleshooting problems. There's a couple of pages on this. Let's see if I can get this to look a little bit better here. Like if it's smelly, like mine doesn't smell at all. It would be from food scraps. So that's the reason I don't put food scraps in there. Pile is not decomposing. Pile is too dry or too small and needs more nitrogen. Pile has a lot of sticks or matted leaves. Material is too large. Takes a little while, so you got to shred them down. I'm not worried about ants, and I'm not worried about bees living in the pile, because I know ants will eat the food that's in there anyway. Bees, you know, I'm trying to bring bees to the gardens and to the vegetables, so I'm not too worried about that. And as long as I get it hot enough, they should be living in there anyway. They talk about compost maintenance calendar, so things you can put in it. They recommend at certain times of the year. There's different composting styles. I mean, I'm only on page 84, just going through this pretty quickly. Water leaf bin, real easy to make. It's pretty much what I have. Mine's square. They show you how to do it with a garbage can, how to do it with like pallets, or make your own kind of setup for it, how to do it with a drum. So if you have like a 50-gallon drum or a 20-gallon drum, whatever you want, you can do something like that. Now, integrating compost, how to use it in your garden properly to get the most out of it, how to work it in, things you could do for different kinds of grass, some things I don't know how to pronounce, hugel, coulter, I guess, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, how to make them in hills. Vericomposting is usually with worms. So there's worm bins some people in like apartments can do, as long as you're careful. So there's all sorts of really good information in here. A whole lot of journals and magazines and resources if you want to know more. Appendix on which kind of composting is right for you. Recipes on how to make stuff, how to make it work well for you. And that's it. I'm trying to make this shorter than this video turned out to be. My apologies. But there is a huge amount of really good use in here. So who could use this? Everybody. And just about everybody. If you're homesteading, you should be composting anyway. It's a great way to clean up your yard or clean up your land and get something free out of it with just a little bit of work. If you're just a simple gardener, small pile is easy enough to maintain. You don't even have to maintain it. Once you put the stuff in there, mix it all together once or twice a year and walk away and let Mother Nature do its own thing. So composting is actually pretty easy. It's a really good book. This is actually what got me into making the pile I have in my backyard. And it is coming out excellent. So that's it. I mean, as I said, in the description below will be an Amazon link and a Books A Million link. It's not currently in stock on Amazon from the few places I did see it. But Books A Million does show it in stock, so I will leave you the Books A Million link too. They're both affiliate links. If you decide to click on one and buy something through those links, I get a small commission, like 1 or 2% of whatever you pay. That's a little payment for me for doing the work, putting in the work. Even though I enjoy doing this, every little bit helps, so I can get you more cool things to take a look at. And of course, if you like this, like it. If you want to subscribe, subscribe. It's all very much appreciated. Thank you, and have a glorious day.